saw in the parking lot?
Who?
Ben.
He was getting out.
You know what I asked him to do?
What?
I said, hit me with your car.
Please just run over me now. It's felt like it's been a week of big things. That's we have a live
Speaking
studio
of big
audience.
things.
big little things. If you hear anything, it's the Hurricane Hazel is over on the couch. I'm sure she'll make an appearance later.
Hey, Hazel.
She's unamused.
Yeah, that wasn't quite side eye. That was up eye. So the silver anniversary of C Chat, 25th episode. 20 y Pentagano? That's not it.
Nope.
Cinco. You'd think it'd be Pentagano. No, you
Yeah,
wouldn't.
that's close. I mean, it sounds
Penta
right.
is 5 in Latin, right? Is it pent?
What's the symbol for the devil?
That's a pentagram.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
veganism. It's the devil's work.
It is.
You're trying to steal,
The devil's
trying to
lettuce.
attack my breakfast, from what I understand.
I am. for
Although
sure.
I don't know the last time I made real sausage. I've been impossible sausage. I have impossible sausage.
Thank you.
Impossible sausage. I didn't do my warm-ups. In the fridge right now, ready. Oh wow. But here we are. We're at the stair.
Try again. Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to C Chat. We're at the Star Hill Dairy Market downtown, everybody. All right, everybody. Brought to you by Station C and the good folks that want to build you a house. We are, like I said, episode 25, Penta y 20 is the technical term for that. I think that is the Sanskrit. I am Nathan Wickline, your host with not the most, but I'm joined with the host with the most. It's your turn. It's your time to shine.
I can't.
Sarah Messer. There you go. And today, our special silver anniversary guest. Buzz on the street. It's the I think the number 4 architect in America at the time. Right now.
Yeah, in America.
Number 4. There's a couple guys that are doing some really weird, wacky stuff, but number 4 I think is something to be proud of.
Yeah.
In America. Number 1 definitely here in
Soon to be
Charleston.
global.
Number 4 is more accessible.
Yeah.
Seven globally. There's
7
these
globally.
Two crazy
Wow.
Norwegian
Okay,
guys and a
okay.
Finnish
Yeah, the
dude.
Scandinavian architects. Can't trust everything.
They do some wild stuff with birch.
Yeah, a lot of it.
When you can bend the wood like that, I mean, you've got something
And
going
hang
on.
of the Alps.
Yeah.
There's just no
flugelhorns.
Without any support.
Yeah.
Flugelhorns do something to the soul. And
Do you have one?
I do have one. You know, I saw something yesterday. This is why flugelhorn is top of the mind. I heard that Dizzy Gillespie was a great flugelhorn player.
Wow.
Now, I saw that from on LL Cool J's Rock the Bells. And it was LL Cool J, Greg Nice, who used to be G Nice, and Z-Trip. Great DJ, by the way.
I don't even want to ask how you got there.
I was just watching
why?
those dudes mix it up and spin it and just going old school.
Just because.
Yeah, it was cool because they were showing how they were talking about samples, and the sample from the Underdog thing was one of the beats for Wu-Tang Clan.
Gotcha.
Anyway,
Well, you know who else is really into music?
I've heard
what
about
a segue.
I've heard about Duke Ellington myself.
Right? So is it true, do you think? Hold on.
It's pretty transferable from trumpet, piano. A lot of pianists play trumpet, so I guess it doesn't.
Do a lot of architects play the bass?
I only know of 2.
And one of them is sitting
One of
right
them
here.
is right here.
Sarah, introduce us to the bass playing architect.
You actually, this might be hard to believe, but in undergrad, in my class, there was another architect who also played the bass, who was a female.
Wow.
Get out of town.
Statistically, that's you would never.
And she's like the 20th best architect. So there's something about music and architecture.
Yeah, she's the 20th best architect and the 19th best bass player.
Ooh, wow.
Wow.
Where do we rank? Where do you rank on the bass? I'm thinking 12.
Like 7,
What?
6.
Okay, all right, you know,
Little humble brag.
little humble brag. They call that a flex.
Well, this is
Well,
an architect
I
and a
mean,
woman who needs an introduction.
It sounds
Yeah.
coincidental, but I could actually talk for longer than this podcast about how music and architecture are related.
Begin.
Yes, let's go.
I'm fascinated. I
we
think
are
it's
going to talk about
That is a
Buckle
great
up.
statement. Just
Throw the
roll with.
script out.
Yeah.
Let's go with this.
Well, where to even start? I mean,
Well, let's introduce yourself.
well, my name's Dhara.
Uh-huh.
I'm an architect, for those who haven't figured that out.
One of the best.
I'm also a number like 4-ish
Yeah.
in the country. And I also have a music background. So I've sort of, throughout the past decade, have seen a lot of parallels between those, which a lot of people don't believe me, but it's true. And I have a really hard time explaining why, but I can say for sure I've been educated by both fields for the other field.
Really?
Yeah, totally.
Well, they say when, like, my mom made me play piano, and I'll consider my mom an authority in this field, because it would make me better at math.
Yeah, well, there's like logic and systematic approaches to stuff, right? Like there's like very rigorous like ways of like honing your craft in both fields, but there's also very like kind of theoretical conceptual approaches to get good at both of those things. And it's a way of framing your thinking, especially when it comes to writing music and then doing design work. It's like you come up with the framework and then you test and you iterate and there's this whole thing about composition and music that I feel like relates to a lot about the process of designing a building.
Now-
like building up layers, structural components, more kind of aesthetic components, more textural feel, space, time, that sort of thing.
So is that more like theoretical or neurological, or both?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
There's lots of people have written about this. There's lots of writings about, this is really cliche for people who know about it, but Fred Goethe, what's his first name? He's like a German philosopher, but he wrote this book called Architecture is Music Frozen, or Architecture is Frozen Music, or something like that.
Yeah.
And from there, all these theories and writings started to develop, and it became a pretty common school of thought.
Which is your
Wow.
favorite to sit down and really dive into, the music or the architecture?
Oh, that's
Hard to say. It's
Yeah,
like
there's-
asking a bunch
yeah,
of kids.
that's-
I imagine she plays the bass while she's
Well,
designing.
first of all, she doesn't play the bass like this. The only reason I know that is I made that mistake. It's upright,
it's
right?
the up one, yes.
Oh,
the big
I'm just thinking of
How did you-
Paul Rudd. How was
How did you do that? How did you get into that? How does
I started playing piano, and then in my high school jazz band, they're like, "Well, we need a bass player," and then it was jazz, so that was kind of the default.
how did the thing fit on the bus?
Like a glove.
Yeah, right.
Can
so are
you-
you lugging this thing
I
around?
was gonna say,
if
can
you've
you
ever been
fit
to New
in the
York
case?
City, like you'll see bass players just going on the subway with that thing,
Yeah.
having an amp with their little wheels. I mean, it's kind of hellacious, but it's done.
I mean, they're big, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it bigger than you?
Big.
Like, can you fit in the case if you want it?
If I really tried, I have a small stature,
Yeah.
so if I really tried, but a tall man would not fit in the case.
I probably wouldn't fit in the case. Rick Tamburino would not fit in the case. Rick Tamburino's a large man.
Yeah, I would say on the larger side
Ricky
for sure.
Tiki
Ricky
Tamburino.
So my goal in life is to either teach a class or write a book on the relationship between the two.
Yeah. Oh,
So
which
I
you,
got the
you
juices
are teaching some classes, right? At the A
I
school?
do teach at UVA at the A school. I teach a design studio there, yes, which I'll be starting in a few short weeks.
And are they building like little models in your studio?
There's a lot of model making, there's a lot of sketching, there's a lot of digital model making.
You use popsicle sticks and toothpicks, the way it's done. That's the way
Play-Doh,
we-
Play-Doh as well,
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you make the models out of? Is there like a
There's-
whole industry around?
Yeah,
architecture
totally.
models?
And it's catered for students a lot of times, but also professionals. It's like it's cleaner than cardboard, but it's called chipboard or butterboard, which is like a white, clean box version of it. And there's materials that are made for model making, basically.
Wow.
But there's also lots of things like casting in place, like poured materials. A lot of people use wood blocks and go to the wood shop and carve stuff.
Oh,
and
really?
then a lot of people do like wax models because you can pour that too. Laser cutters, 3D printing's the rage now. I don't actually even know how to 3D print, which makes me feel old, but
Well, when you teach a studio, can't you, I mean, at some point get a little creative with,
oh yeah,
Yeah.
You can, they have agency to do whatever they're comfortable with that they feel like represents a technique that represents their idea. Like at least that's how I approach it. Like I'm not going to make them go to the wood shop if they're not comfortable
Yeah.
with wood blocks. If they want to do cardboard models because they can do that quickly and accurately, then
Now, Nathan and I have discussed this on previous podcasts, and I feel like it would be a good question for you, is when the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids, there are some theories that actually aliens built them, and they did it with music. But they used these musical notes to lift and place the blocks. Have you heard this before?
That's the only logical answer to that.
I haven't heard it, but I bet it's true.
I bet it is true.
Further proving my theory that this is all interrelated.
It's all interrelated because no one else has been able to replicate what they did with what they had, which means they had something that we don't know about.
True.
It's just a guess.
That's actually a fact. I mean, if you can't figure it out, they had something we don't know about.
Right.
We know about music, though.
We do.
So you ever have, just to get us back on the rails, thanks a lot, Sarah. So is this your first year teaching? Or have you taught before?
I taught, my first semester was last semester, and this
Okay.
will be my second semester.
I was going to say, have you ever had a kid that just blows you away and then you're like, this?
Oh, yeah. I had two or three of them last semester, and I was like, he's inexperienced, but boy, if, 5 more years, he's just going to knock everyone out of the park.
He may pass you.
Yeah.
Crack that top
Already
five.
I didn't even know how you thought of that, and yeah.
That's
it's amazing.
cool.
Yeah.
Do you have like these things locked in your brain? You're like, this idea I want to use at one point. I mean, are there things that are locked in your brain you just can't wait to get out? It's like music, I guess, like a song.
Yeah.
There's things that you like it can be the whole gamut. It can be like a theoretical concept you want to explore, or it can be like a construction technique you want to explore, and it just has to be the right opportunity and the right client in the architecture world. And then like for music, it's like I'll listen to something. I used to write a lot of music. I don't have a lot of bandwidth these days to do it, but for music, it's like I'll hear something that I think is really interesting and then play around with that idea and then make it my own and test it in different ways. So yeah. I mean, I think that's with every creative field, though. It's not just these two fields. I think like an artist will say the same thing. They'll see something that feels inspiring and save it for the right moment,
Yeah.
You gonna say something?
And another way that music and architecture come together, and this is something that Dhara's talked about in her group in some presentations, is in community spaces.
Right.
Dhara's a big advocate of community spaces, and we wanted to hear your take on some of the current events that are happening with Charlottesville community and shared spaces.
Where we're sitting.
Maybe where we're sitting would be a good place to talk about. I don't know
The
if you...
dairy market.
Yeah.
You know?
So I've heard a little bit of rumbling about what's happening in that direction.
Yeah.
So if I'm correct, it's that entire parking lot and that building.
They just take... And the plant store.
Also the fifth,
Yeah.
They're taking it all
season.
out. Fifth season, twice as nice.
I thought it got halted, though, did it not?
No, I think it's just...
There was something like...
Well, they're talking,
Because of
they've been
public
hosting
opinion.
some meetings
Yeah.
about, so the residents.
What are you? Because you're probably more read on this than I am. What's the issue?
Well, so I've been watching some stuff, and the community that lives right around here.
These guys right across the street?
Yeah. So when this was built, they were made certain promises about like ways they could use the space, that people who lived in the buildings here wouldn't be parking in their neighborhood. Well, that has not happened. Their street parking has been commandeered. Also, residents have applied to live in these apartments, and none of them have gotten apartments, which is another setback. They're now being charged to use, they can use the church space at certain times for free, but have to bring their own and set up their own furniture, etc. They're allowed to use the space for free once a month for a community meeting, which has been problematic. They have a lot of resistance to taking down Twice as Nice, which is a great secondhand clothing store that a lot of people in the community use, as well as the plant store. So those are the rumblings that I hear. Also, there was something about painting a mural on the side of the building that residents were, so it was going to feature a black woman, and residents were saying, well, why would you feature a black woman on a space that's not accessible to the black community? So I think that has been addressed.
There's so many contradictions and conflicting ideals, I think. I mean, like, I have a lot of opinions about this. I don't know if you want to...
I'll give you my opinion. You don't know my
We want your
opinion?
opinion.
I think that's just time marches on.
Yeah.
And listen, Charlottesville isn't the same as it was 30 years ago, and it's not going to be the same as it is 30 years from now. And things change. And look, is it always fair? Probably not. But look, it's that asphalt, that dirt, that land, that costs money. And there's realities to the world that I just can't, you're just, sorry. If I'm going to take the risk to develop that land and build this, which, look, I understand that there's some parking issues and some other things that maybe you can't use the church. This is a great space. This is a...
Well, but it's also a cost-prohibitive space. You come to get lunch in here, it's on average, $12 to $15 for a single serving.
I get it.
Yeah.
There's other places you can go for lunch. You don't have to come here for lunch.
That's true, but also there are being parallels drawn between historically what happened in Vinegar Hill and now what's happening.
But we're not.
To the Pleasant
It's,
Avenue
I don't
area.
think it's even close to the same.
I mean,
because there's not bulldozers.
we're not displacing residents, are we, with these two lots?
No.
I mean, I agree with both
Are
of
there
you,
residents?
actually. I get very frustrated when I see new developments go up that are, but even I struggle to afford. So, I don't like spending $18 for lunch, and and that's happening all over the town. And,
Right.
And I have a decent job. I'm middle class, and I shouldn't have to worry about stuff like that. And that said, though, there's also a lot of things about urban development that can actually really help a town, but it's not. You don't see it right away. So I think it's hard for people to understand that off the bat. And there's so many things about urban planning that make a case for densifying these lots that are parking lots. A lot of people have complained about what happened on West Main, all that development. But before, it was really sketchy to walk around there. All these empty parking lots are like that to me is way worse than what happened. What's there now? But even if it is more expensive and it's quote unquote gentrifying the area, I think that there's a long-term effect that I think is better for the community, but it's really, really hard to digest that, I think, for most people.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just Charlottesville, it's Albemarle County. I read this great thing, and basically they said, look, Albemarle County and Charlottesville is not a community that you live and work in anymore. I mean, it's not designed for that. It is if you have a lot of money, you can come and retire here, and there's going to be services around. But it's just like anywhere else in this country. If you want to go to work, if you want to work in D.C., you're going to drive 45 minutes to D.C.
Right.
You want that, and that's what people are going to have to wrap their brains around in Charlottesville. If you want to work and play in Charlottesville, and be part of that service industry.
So I do actually still think, though, it's middle to lower middle class to low income folks should be able to live in the city. So that's where I am conflicted. I don't feel like they should have to go move to Greene County or whatever. And if their job is here, urban life, the whole point of urban life is that you live and you work in the same area, right? And historically, right? Conceptually, that's how it's supposed to be. But at the same time, I'm also this is a city. It's supposed to be dense. It's better for the environment for the city to be dense, so we're not sprawling. The infrastructure's in place. It's better to increase supply for all these amenities and housing because that will bring everything lower. But that's a long
Right.
game. That's a long
Yeah,
game.
and this is a small city. I mean,
Yeah.
it's 2 miles that way, it's a mile and a half that way,
Yeah.
and it's half a mile that way.
Well,
And that's all
yeah.
you got.
And all the zoning changes that are happening will create more density
Right.
in the city, but then can people afford to live? And I know there are.
It'll increase
affordable
density, but it
housing.
also jack up prices of everything. So
Right.
there's a game. Yeah.
It's small. It's a small
Yeah.
city. So the
Right.
city, they're not making any more of that. This is the largest parking lot in Charlottesville, Virginia, right
Yeah.
out here. This is the best parking you're going to get, and that's going to go away. But because there's a higher and better use for that piece of
Yeah,
earth.
and I got to be honest, I don't feel bad for people who complain about parking.
Right.
It's I'm kind of
Because we have it better than most cities, yeah.
Let's get some proper public transportation infrastructure. The CTS, the buses around here are just a shit show, I think, and
Yes.
that is what we need to solve for. We don't need to solve for more cars in the city.
Right. And you know what
I
else?
think.
You know what else has happened? So if you live on that street, the streets over there, 10 years ago, your house was probably worth $200,000. Now it's worth about $4. If you start to maybe look forward and you get some guys that are a little speculative, maybe it's worth $550 now. Now, does that mean you can go somewhere else in Charleston and buy a $550 house? No. But you can maybe go.
Because it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it does exist 25 to 30 minutes from here. And the reality is, I don't know. I think I look at the city as it's it's a services place, and I mean there's
Yeah.
going to be some room for that. But
I feel like for me, the biggest gripe has been public transportation, proper bike infrastructure. You can't
Oh, Lord.
ride your bike from one end of town
No,
to the
you
other
cannot.
without almost crashing. And, it's
Yeah.
just, there's,
It's rough.
yeah, like you can't get into the county really on your bike. Like
Yeah.
you can't get up 29. Like you should be able to, in my opinion. And that is where, like, if that was better, like this whole car thing could become less of an issue. Like people care so much about their cars and where they're going to park it, and it's just, it would be great if we had a society that didn't rely on that. But anyway, that's my
Well, I mean,
soapbox
you
about
see
that.
it even, look at the microcosm of UVA. What's the biggest problem there is professors and teachers and people visiting finding parking.
Yeah.
But what's the alternative? It's like really difficult to get
Yeah.
anywhere in any other way than car because the bus is unreliable. It's
Buses,
often
yeah.
late. I've struggled with that as a student, or like, you're walking farther distances
Yeah.
and there's all kinds of
Even if we got
construction.
like
and
really reliable, like a bus system, that would help so much, so
Yeah.
many people. But we don't really have, it's not really reliable, so.
Well, and I think too, it's like if these things aren't super profitable,
Yeah.
then when does it become like a necessary thing that someone has to step in
Yeah.
and do?
So, yeah, I think it's complicated, but I'm not at like I have a tough time reconciling the NIMBY approach where you shouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
But then I am also like, well, if whatever's being built also needs to be accessible for the whole community, not for a certain class of income.
Yeah.
So,
And the first bike lane, so when I was in college and I lived off JPA, they added a bike lane, but they added the bike lane between the traffic lane, then there was the bike lane, then the parallel parking lane. So what happens on day one? My roommate opens his door and smacks a biker. And I mean, they were both okay, but like, he wasn't the only one that did that. It's because residents aren't used to biking
Yeah.
infrastructure.
Yeah.
And when it's like constructed in a way that's like asking people to make a behavioral change as well, I think as we see, I mean, we could sit here and watch where it goes from no bike lane to there's a bike lane, but how are bikers merging from nothing onto something, and it's
yeah.
always chaotic right here. And even turning into the juice laundry at Preston, there's always pedestrians and bikers, and people aren't used to looking, and so there's always beeping, swerving, because people start to turn, and oh fuck, excuse me.
there we go.
She didn't notice. It's okay. She didn't notice.
The millions of people watching.
I know,
We've
I'm
got
so
the fourth
sorry.
best architect in America.
No, I apologize.
Seventh best bass player, and you're just dropping
Okay, I'm done.
F-bombs.
Okay, but one thing I did
Well,
appreciate
it's nice being on the air,
that
guys.
Dara talked about was you worked on the Blue Moon Diner,
the apartment building.
the apartment
Yeah.
building behind Blue
Yeah.
Moon Diner, which when that was happening, the buzz around the city was everyone was angry, because change is difficult.
Right.
But what is the result of it? It's kind of been a positive.
It's provided more housing. I mean, there's also, I'm not going to pretend that there aren't issues with that building,
Right,
what that
of
building
course.
gives, But anyway, and people kind of hated the aesthetic, I think, when it was built, but someone had to try something modern, and
Yeah.
I don't know, I just think this is what the fabric of a city should look like, it should be,
We're a society of just people that just want to attack things.
Yeah.
There's just this group of folks that are sitting back and they're like, just waiting.
You know what
And
they call
just-
that, Nathan? Neggy vibes.
I-
We need great vibes.
It's going to be great. You know
gonna
what?
it's going to be great.
It's already great. Yeah, it's, I know we're getting the high
people
sign
freaked
here
out when
from
that
the
got
city.
built. But
It looks great. It
but now it's like, it's an apartment building.
You have to
and-
do this stuff. And look, is it always fair? No, but look, life isn't fair. I'm sorry. It's just
That's the worst lesson, and I keep learning it like every day, over and over again, and I'm tired of it, Nathan.
Sure. I mean,
I
keep
know I'm
getting
not
really
alone.
mad, and then you're
Yeah.
like, well, and then you get mad again, and then you're like, well,
it's just the way it's always going to be. It's just the way that it's
And I
always-
hate that my dad told me that all the time, and I just ignored him.
Yeah.
Because he was right.
Yeah, well, I mean, and like I said, it costs money to do these things. And you just can't say, unless your city just has $1 billion in its bank account to just build stuff that people can just.
I mean, it needs to be done the right way. I mean, the whole gripe with the Vinegar Hill issue is where the Staples is now, is that it's a Staples, and it's a parking lot that's never full, never
Right.
used. that was not the right way to push people out of their housing. Like there was nothing provided like there's nothing rebuilt
Yeah,
for
I mean,
that use.
you can find Post-it notes somewhere else.
The Staples is never like it's a Staples for God's sake. Like
But they're still in business, I have to say.
that's true.
Bought,
They're doing
bought
something
stuff
right.
from them yesterday, actually.
Did you?
I did.
Oh my God, Nathan.
Yeah.
I mean, so like that is where it's like, well, maybe that wasn't done right,
Yeah.
But like, and that's why it's upsetting that that whole neighborhood got displaced. But at least when I think about that, I'm like, that's what they put there, But they could have built other housing, or they could have built a mixed-use development with housing and amenities, like commercial spaces and shops and restaurants and things. But anyway.
Highest and best use. Highest and best use. That is definitely not a highest and best use of
Yeah.
the property.
Which is difficult because it's like, I mean, that's just humanity, right? Who's making the determination of what's its highest and best use?
Well,
And
yeah.
are they an accurate reflection of the people that occupy the community?
That was a grocery store. Is what that was. State hasn't always been Staples. I mean, Vinegar Hill raising was 60 years ago.
Oh, that was a grocery store first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you guys both grew up here, or close to
Yeah.
Charlottesville.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
did.
you've seen a lot of changes.
So,
Yeah.
what is she watching over there?
This building was an improvement because
Yeah.
it's maintaining the use that it was before, that it's better. I mean, it generated some social energy that it didn't have before, I think. Now it's difficult because it's like Sarah said, it's like, expensive and it's only for a certain market. But before, it was a little bit like just wasn't anything happening. So I don't,
What was it, O'Grady's and then
Yeah, I mean,
the nacho place?
You say $12 to $15 a meal. It's $10 at a McDonald's. I mean, there's
Food's expensive right now.
Everything's expensive. So at least give yourself a good space. And you know what? If you want to bring your own lunch, you can bring your own lunch in here. Just eat it and enjoy the space and use it however you want to. There's nobody guarding the door.
It's true.
Watch movies on the couch.
It is nice, air conditioned.
we are
Yeah.
here, It's,
You are
it's
here.
been an amenity.
They don't even
for
know
the-
we're here.
For
We
the
just walk in
community.
and set up.
I mean,
We thank them, but I don't
Yeah.
think they know we're here.
you just act like you're supposed to be here.
Yeah.
You don't get questions.
Yeah.
Walk with a.
I'm wondering if now is the time for our musical interlude. Because Dara has a guest named Ricky Tiki who was going to sing alongside her.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
You ready?
Our 25th anniversary, bringing back a blast from the past from episode 1. Rick
He's
Timberlake.
here.
Come on in here and say
Come on
hey,
in,
Rick.
Ricky.
I never promised I would sing.
Come on. Come
How you
on.
doing, sir? Yeah. There's a small child. Yeah. Hayes, come here, Hayes. Let's bring everybody here. For the
Come
25th
on.
anniversary, let the balloons go. Release the balloons.
Come on in, Barbie. You want to be on camera?
Hold on, let's see here.
This is Nathan's better half, everyone.
This is 5-year-old Hazel. Say hi.
Hi.
All right. So, yeah, we've been given the high sign to wrap it up. We're going to go. Thanks for 25 great episodes.
And thank you,
Thanks for
Dara. We love
Thanks
it.
for Rick Tamburino.
Thanks for letting me rant
Well,
about
hang on. Before we go, we need to know where to find Dara for architecture and for music.
Oh, yeah.
Architecture. I'm located downtown. My company is called DGF Studio, and yeah, please visit my website. Reach out if you want to talk.
Residential and commercial.
Correct. Currently, yep. And musically, let's see. Couple things. Fall's a busy time, so I will look for music. I will say so. I think there's something going on at the Jefferson School in the second week of September that I'll be a part of. But I will keep the Station C community.
What's the name of the band?
Posted. That band is called Wild Common.
Wild Comet. And what's the other band?
The other stuff that I do is mostly my own freelance jazz
Okay.
stuff. So it's usually just either I'm with another group or I'm under my own name or whatever. So,
Awesome. And you
yeah.
work a lot with the front porch.
I do. I'm on their board, and so I'm usually at those events as well.
Awesome. Well, there we go.
Thank
And
you.
Ricky, you can sing us out.